The Norian Empire had conquered 30 star systems in 200 years. Their warriors stood 7 feet tall with hard skin like armor. Their ships could destroy entire planets. Every species they met either surrendered or died. The Norians believed they were the most powerful beings in the universe. Then they found Earth. The humans were small and soft. They had no claws, no natural weapons, no armor on their bodies. The Norian generals laughed when they saw the first human soldiers. This would be the easiest conquest in their history. They were wrong. 5 years of war changed everything. The humans refused to surrender. When the Norians destroyed one city, the humans built another. When they killed one army, another appeared. The small, soft creatures fought with a madness the Norians had never seen. They attacked ships with weapons that should not have worked. They survived in places where they should have died. They kept coming, wave after wave, year after year. The war had no end in sight. Both sides were tired. Both sides had lost too much. So the Norian High Council proposed an ancient solution: a marriage alliance. One human would marry into Norian royalty. This would bind the two species together and end the war forever. Queen Vela received the news in her throne room. She was young for a queen, only 40 years old, which was like 25 in human years. She had purple skin that shimmered in the light. Her eyes were large and golden, seeing more colors than humans could imagine. 2 beautiful wings folded against her back, a sign of royal blood. She was also very angry. "You want me to marry a human?" she asked the council elder. Her voice was cold like ice. The elder, an old Norian named Kale, bowed his head. "It is the only way, my queen. The war must end. Our people are dying. Their people are dying. A marriage will bring peace." "Humans are insects," Vela said. "They are weak, primitive creatures. And you want one of them to stand beside me as my husband?" "The human government has already chosen someone," Elder Kale said carefully. "His name is Taiho. He was a soldier. Now he works as a diplomat. He has agreed to come to our world and live here forever." Vela stood up from her throne. She was tall and powerful, her presence filling the room. "Bring him then. Let me see this human who thinks he is worthy of a Norian queen." 2 weeks later, a small human ship arrived on the Norian homeworld. The entire court gathered to see the human. Warriors lined the halls, each one twice the size of any human. They wanted to show their strength, to make this small creature understand his place. The doors of the throne room opened. Taiho walked in alone. He was not what Vela expected. He was average height for a human, with black hair and dark eyes. He wore simple clothes, nothing fancy or royal. He carried only a small bag over his shoulder. He had no guards, no servants, no symbols of power. He walked through the hall of giant warriors like he was walking through a garden. His face was calm. His steps were steady. He did not look at the weapons or the armor or the cold eyes watching him. Vela studied him from her throne. She searched for fear in his eyes and found none. She searched for arrogance and found none of that either. He simply looked peaceful. This annoyed her greatly. Taiho stopped at the base of her throne and bowed his head respectfully. "Queen Vela," he said. His voice was quiet but clear. "Thank you for accepting me into your home. I hope I can bring peace between our peoples." "You speak our language," Vela observed. "I learned on the journey here," Taiho replied. "It is a beautiful language." Several courtiers exchanged surprised looks. The Norian language was considered one of the most difficult in the galaxy. Learning it in 2 weeks should have been impossible. Vela dismissed this as luck. "You understand what this marriage means? You will live here forever. You will never return to Earth. You will follow our customs and obey our laws." "I understand. You are not afraid?" Taiho looked up at her. For a moment, their eyes met. "Should I be?" he asked. Something flickered in Vela's chest. Not attraction, certainly not. Perhaps irritation at his calmness. Perhaps curiosity at his strange courage. She pushed the feeling away. "Take him to the guest quarters," she ordered her guards. "The wedding will be in 3 days." The wedding was a grand affair, though Vela made sure everyone knew it was only political. She wore her finest robes and jewels, looking every bit the powerful queen she was. Tai-Ho wore simple, formal clothes, standing beside her like a shadow. The ceremony lasted 4 hours. Ancient words were spoken. Sacred rituals were performed. When it was finished, Tai-Ho was officially her husband. Vela felt nothing. Afterward, she assigned him quarters on the far side of the palace, as far from her own rooms as possible. She gave him a small allowance and a few servants. She expected him to complain, to demand better treatment. He simply nodded and thanked her. Days passed. Vela threw herself into her work, ruling the empire and ignoring her new husband completely. She attended meetings, reviewed military reports, and managed the complex politics of 30 star systems. She did not think about Tai-Ho at all, but reports began to reach her. The servants whispered that the human was strange. He woke early every morning and exercised for 2 hours, running and lifting weights and practicing fighting moves. He ate foods that should have been poisonous. He spent hours in the palace library, reading books about Norian history and culture. He spoke to everyone he met, from the highest nobles to the lowest cleaning staff, treating them all with the same quiet respect. Commander Rova, Vela's military advisor, came to her one evening with a troubled expression. "The human is making friends," she said. "Friends?" Vela raised an eyebrow. "The servants like him. He learned all their names. He asks about their families. Yesterday he helped repair a broken water pipe in the lower quarters. He did the work himself, with his own hands." Vela frowned. "Why would he do that?" "I do not know, my queen, but the common people are starting to talk. They say he is not like other aliens. They say he is kind." "Kindness is weakness," Vela said dismissively. But something about the report bothered her. That night, she found herself walking through the palace gardens. She told herself she was just taking a walk, nothing more. But somehow, her feet carried her toward the eastern wing, where Tai-Ho lived. She found him sitting alone on a bench, looking up at the 3 moons of her world. He did not seem surprised to see her. "The moons are beautiful," he said softly. "On Earth, we only have one." Vela stood at a distance, unsure why she had come. "You seem happy here," she finally said. "Most prisoners would be miserable." Tai-Ho smiled gently. "Am I a prisoner? I thought I was a husband." "You are a political tool," Vela said coldly. "Nothing more." "Perhaps." Tai-Ho turned to look at her. "But I can be a good political tool. I can learn your ways, help your people, build bridges between our species. Or I can be miserable and useless. I choose to be useful." Vela did not know how to respond. She had expected him to be weak, to break under the pressure of living among aliens who despised him. Instead, he seemed completely at peace. "You are a strange creature," she finally said. Tai-Ho laughed softly. "All humans are strange, Your Majesty. You will learn that soon enough." He stood and bowed to her. "Good night, my queen. Sleep well." Then he walked away, leaving Vela alone under the 3 moons, wondering what exactly the universe had brought into her life. 1 month passed since the wedding. Queen Vela continued to rule her empire and ignore her human husband. But ignoring Tai-Ho was becoming harder every day. The reports kept coming. Strange reports, impossible reports. It started at a state dinner. Vela hosted ambassadors from 12 different species. The food was prepared to suit each guest, carefully designed to avoid allergies and poisons. Norian cuisine was famous for being dangerous to outsiders. Many dishes contained chemicals that could kill other species in minutes. Tai-ho attended the dinner as required. He sat at the far end of the table, quiet and polite. Vela watched him from the corner of her eye, expecting him to eat only the safe human foods prepared for him. Instead, he reached for a bowl of red fruit from the Norian highlands. These fruits contained a burning chemical that caused extreme pain to any non-Norian who ate them. Even other species who had lived on the planet for generations could not handle them. Before anyone could stop him, Tai-ho took a bite. The Norian ambassador beside him gasped. "Human! That will kill you!" Tai-ho chewed slowly, a thoughtful expression on his face. "It is quite good," he said. "A little spicy, but not too bad." The entire table went silent. "Spicy?" the ambassador repeated. "That fruit has enough poison to stop a heart." Tai-ho took another bite. "On Earth, we have something called chili peppers. They burn much worse than this." He smiled politely. "May I have some more?" Vela watched in shock as her human husband ate 3 more of the deadly fruits. He showed no signs of pain, no sweating, no difficulty breathing. He simply ate them like they were ordinary snacks. After the dinner, she called her royal physician. "Examine him," she ordered. "Find out what is wrong with him." The physician returned an hour later looking confused. "There is nothing wrong with him, my queen. His body simply processes the poison differently. His species evolved to eat such things. Their tongues have special receptors for it. They actually enjoy the burning sensation." "They enjoy it?" "Yes, my queen. Apparently humans eat dangerous chemicals for pleasure. They call it flavor." Vela did not know what to say. 2 weeks later, something even stranger happened. The queen was required to visit the southern provinces of her planet. It was a diplomatic mission to meet with local governors. Tai-ho came along because the council insisted the human husband be seen in public. They traveled in a royal transport ship, flying over mountains and oceans. Everything was normal until they reached the frozen southern mountains. The ship's engine failed. It crashed into a snow-covered valley. The ship was destroyed, but everyone survived the impact. 20 Norians and 1 human were stranded in the frozen wilderness. Rescue would take 2 days. The temperature was far below freezing. Ice formed on the rocks. Wind cut through clothing like knives. This was deadly weather even for Norians. Commander Rova organized the survivors. "We must find shelter immediately. Our bodies cannot handle this cold for long." The Norians huddled together, their bodies shaking. Their species had evolved in warm climates. Extreme cold slowed their blood and weakened their muscles. Within hours, several soldiers had collapsed. Their skin turned gray. Their breathing became shallow. Tai-ho removed his heavy thermal jacket. "What are you doing?" Rova demanded. "You will freeze!" Tai-ho wrapped the jacket around a shivering young soldier. "He needs it more than I do." "You are insane! You will die!" But Tai-ho was already walking away, trudging through the deep snow in only his thin inner clothes. He climbed over rocks and disappeared into the white storm. Vela watched him go with something like fear. She had not realized until that moment that she did not want him to die. The feeling surprised her. Hours passed. 3 more soldiers collapsed. The survivors burned what little they could find for heat. Vela herself felt the cold creeping into her bones, slowing her thoughts. Then Tai-ho returned. He walked out of the storm like a ghost, covered in snow and ice. His clothes were frozen stiff. His skin was red from the cold. But he was alive, and he was walking steadily. "There is a cave system 1 kilometer north," he said. His voice was calm, as if he had just returned from a pleasant stroll. "I found dry wood inside. We can make a proper fire there." "How are you alive?" Rova whispered. "You should be dead." Tai-ho smiled slightly. "Humans are harder to kill than we look." He bent down and lifted 2 unconscious soldiers onto his shoulders. Together they weighed over 200 kilograms. Taiho carried them through the snow like they weighed nothing. The group followed him to the cave. True to his word, there was dry wood inside. Soon a fire burned bright and warm. The soldiers began to recover. Vela sat near the fire, watching Taiho. He was checking on each survivor, making sure they were warm, giving them water from melted snow. His hands were red and damaged from the cold, but he did not complain. "You walked in that storm for 3 hours," she said quietly. "Without protection, without warmth. How?" Taiho sat down beside her. His body steamed as the ice melted from his clothes. "Humans are what you call persistence predators," he explained. "Long ago, before we had technology, we survived by chasing animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We can run for days without stopping. We can survive heat and cold that would kill other creatures. Our bodies adapt to almost anything. That is impossible. It is what we are." Taiho looked at his damaged hands. "My body will heal this in a few days. Human cells repair themselves quickly. We are very difficult to kill permanently." Vela stared at him. She had believed humans were weak, fragile creatures. Everything she knew about them said they should be easy to defeat. And yet. "The war," she said slowly. 5 years we fought. We killed millions of you, destroyed hundreds of your ships, and you never stopped coming." "We never stop," Taiho agreed. "When someone tells us we cannot do something, we try harder. When something knocks us down, we get back up. It is in our blood, in our bones. We do not know how to surrender." Vela remembered the war reports. The human ships that attacked, even when badly damaged. The soldiers who fought until their last breath. The colonies that rebuilt themselves within months of being destroyed. She had always thought it was human stubbornness, human foolishness. Now she wondered if it was something else entirely. "You scare me," she admitted quietly. It was not something a queen should say, but the words came out before she could stop them. Taiho looked at her with gentle eyes. "I do not want to scare you. I want to help you. That is why I am here." "To help the species that killed your people? To build peace so no more people die. Yours or mine?" Taiho held out his damaged hand. "I am not your enemy, Vela. I never was." It was the first time he had used her name without the title. It felt strangely intimate. Before Vela could respond, rescue ships appeared in the sky. The crisis was over. They were saved. But something had changed. Vela looked at her human husband with new eyes. She did not understand him yet. She did not know what humans truly were. But she was beginning to realize that she had badly underestimated them. On the flight home, she sat beside Taiho instead of in her private cabin. She asked him questions about Earth, about human history, about his family. He told her about his younger sister, Yuna, who worked on a human colony ship as a scientist. He told her about the cities of Earth, the oceans and mountains, the billions of humans living under one yellow sun. "You miss it," Vela observed. "Every day," Taiho admitted. "But I made a choice to come here. I will honor that choice. Even though you may never see your home again?" Taiho smiled sadly. "Home is not a place. Home is the people you love. I will find new people to love here. Maybe I already have." Vela did not know if he meant her. She was afraid to ask. When they returned to the palace, she moved him to quarters closer to her own. She told herself it was for security reasons. Deep down, she knew the truth. She was curious about this strange human. And curiosity for a Norian queen was the first step toward something much more dangerous. 3 months had passed since the wedding. The palace had grown used to seeing the human walking through its halls. Servants greeted him by name. Guards nodded at him with respect. Even Commander Rova, who had once hated all humans, had begun to speak well of him. Queen Vela found herself thinking about Taiho often. She watched him during council meetings, where he sat quietly and listened. She noticed how he remembered every person's name, every small detail about their lives. She saw how he treated everyone with the same gentle kindness, whether they were nobles or cleaning staff. She did not love him. She told herself this every day, but she had begun to respect him, and that was almost as dangerous. On the night everything changed, Vela was working late in her study. The palace was quiet. Most of the staff had gone to sleep. Only the night guards remained awake, patrolling the empty halls. She heard the first explosion from far away. The ground shook. Alarms screamed through the palace. Vela jumped to her feet, reaching for the emergency communication device on her desk. "Report!" she commanded. Commander Rova's voice came through, filled with static and fear. "My queen, we are under attack. The Crimson Swarm has breached the outer walls. They have at least 200 soldiers inside the palace." The Crimson Swarm. Vela's blood went cold. They were extremists, Norians who believed that peace with humanity was a betrayal of their species. They wanted to restart the war, to destroy humanity completely. For months they had been growing in power, recruiting warriors who hated the peace treaty. And now they had come for her. "Where are they?" Vela demanded. "Everywhere, my queen. They are killing everyone they find. You must escape through the underground passage." Another explosion shook the palace, closer this time. Vela could hear screaming from somewhere below. "What about Taiho?" she asked. The question surprised her. "The human?" Rova sounded confused. "He is in his quarters. I do not know if—" The communication cut off. The device went dead. Vela grabbed a small blade from her desk. It was not much of a weapon, but it was better than nothing. She moved toward the door, planning to reach the escape tunnel. The door exploded inward. 3 Crimson Swarm warriors burst into the room. They wore red armor and carried plasma rifles. Their eyes burned with hatred. "The Queen!" one of them shouted. "Kill her!" Vela raised her blade, knowing it was hopeless. She was trained in combat, but not like this. Not against 3 armed warriors. The first warrior fired his rifle. Vela dodged, feeling the heat of the plasma bolt pass her face. She slashed at him with her blade, cutting his arm. He screamed and dropped his weapon, but the other 2 were already moving. One grabbed her from behind. The other raised his rifle to her head. "The war will begin again," he said. "When you are dead, humanity will pay for what they have done to our people." Vela struggled, but she could not break free. She closed her eyes, waiting for death. The shot never came. Instead, she heard a strange sound, a wet, choking noise. Then a thud. She opened her eyes. Taiho stood in the doorway. His clothes were torn and bloody. His face was covered in ash and sweat. Behind him, in the hallway, lay the bodies of 4 more swarm warriors. The warrior holding Vela turned in surprise. Taiho moved. Vela had seen Norian warriors fight. She had watched the best combat masters in the Empire demonstrate their skills. She had never seen anything like what Taiho did next. He crossed the room in 3 steps, faster than should have been possible for his size. His hand shot out and grabbed the rifle from the 3rd warrior. In the same motion, he twisted, broke the warrior's wrist, and threw him into the wall. The warrior holding Vela let go, reaching for his own weapon. Taiho was already there. He caught the warrior's arm, bent it backward, and struck him in the throat. The warrior collapsed, gasping for air. The first warrior, the one Vela had cut, tried to run. Taiho picked up a fallen blade and threw it. It spun through the air and buried itself in the warrior's leg. He fell, screaming. The entire fight lasted less than 10 seconds. Vela stared at her husband. He was breathing hard, blood dripping from a wound on his shoulder, but his eyes were calm, focused, completely in control. "Are you hurt?" he asked. His voice was gentle, worried. No, I am not hurt." She could barely speak. "Taiho, what? We need to move. There are more coming. He held out his hand. Stay close to me. She took his hand without thinking. His grip was warm and strong. They moved through the burning palace. Everywhere there was chaos. Guards fought swarm warriors. Bodies lay in the halls. Smoke filled the air, making it hard to see. Taiho led the way, somehow finding paths through the destruction. When enemies appeared, he dealt with them quickly and efficiently. He used whatever weapons he could find, blades, broken pieces of metal, even his bare hands. Each fight was brutal and short. Vela watched him with growing amazement. This was not the quiet, gentle man she had come to know. This was something else entirely. A warrior of terrifying skill, a killer who showed no mercy to those who threatened his queen. "Where did you learn to fight like this?" she asked during a brief pause. Taiho's eyes flickered with something dark. "I was a soldier before I was a diplomat. The war taught me many things." "You killed my people in the war." "Yes." He did not look away from her. "And your people killed mine. That is why I came here, to make sure it never happens again." Before she could respond, more swarm warriors appeared, 6 of them this time, blocking the corridor ahead. Taiho stepped forward, placing himself between Vela and the enemy. "Stay behind me." The lead warrior laughed. "One human against 6 Norian warriors? You are either brave or stupid." "I have been called both," Taiho said, and then he attacked. Vela had heard stories of human soldiers in the war, stories that seemed impossible. Humans who kept fighting after losing limbs, humans who survived wounds that should have killed them instantly, humans who seemed to feel no pain, no fear, no hesitation. She had thought these were lies, propaganda to explain Norian defeats. Now she saw the truth. Taiho fought like a force of nature. He took hits that should have stopped him and kept moving. He bled from a dozen wounds and did not slow down. He broke bones, crushed throats, and left bodies on the ground with mechanical efficiency. When it was over, 6 swarm warriors lay dead or dying. Taiho stood among them, covered in blood that was both his and theirs. He turned to Vela. His face was pale from blood loss. His body swayed slightly, but he was still standing. "The east exit should be clear now," he said. "We can reach Commander Rova's position." Vela looked at his wounds. A normal Norian would be dead with such injuries. A normal human should be dead. "You need medical help," she said. "Later. First, you need to be safe." He started walking, limping slightly. "Come on." Vela followed him, her mind spinning with questions. Who was this man she had married? What was he truly capable of? And why, when he could have stayed hidden and safe, had he fought through an army of enemies to reach her? They found Commander Rova holding a defensive position near the east gate. The remaining loyal guards had gathered there, forming a last line of defense. Rova stared at Taiho with wide eyes. You crossed the entire palace, through all of them." "The queen needed protection," Taiho said simply. Then his legs gave out, and he collapsed. Vela caught him before he hit the ground. She held him in her arms, this small human who had done the impossible for her. "Get a healer," she screamed. "Now!" As servants rushed to help, she looked down at Taiho's face. He was unconscious, but his expression was peaceful. "Foolish human," she whispered. But there were tears in her golden eyes. Foolish, brave, impossible human. She had not wanted to love him. She had tried so hard not to care. But sitting there in the ruins of her palace, holding his broken body, Vela realized that somewhere along the way, she had failed. The Crimson Swarm had tried to kill her queen and restart the war. They had failed too. Because Taiho, the quiet human husband she had tried to ignore, had stood alone against an army. And he had won. Taiho slept for 2 days. The palace healers worked through the night, treating his wounds. They were amazed by what they found. Bones that should have taken months to heal were already mending. Torn muscles were rebuilding themselves. His human body was fighting to survive with a determination they had never seen. Queen Vela did not leave his side. She sat in a chair beside his bed, watching him breathe. She ignored the council meetings, the damage reports, the endless demands for her attention. Let Commander Rova handle it. Let the Elder Council complain. She was not moving. On the second night, Taiho opened his eyes. "Hello," he said softly. His voice was weak but calm. Vela leaned forward, relief flooding through her. "You are awake." "I am." He looked around the medical room, then back at her. "You stayed. Someone had to make sure you did not die." She tried to sound cold, queenly. She failed. "You are my husband. It would be inconvenient if you died." Taiho smiled. It was a small smile, tired and genuine. "Inconvenient. Yes, that would be terrible." Vela wanted to hit him. She wanted to scream at him for being so foolish, for risking his life, for making her worry. Instead, she found herself taking his hand. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you fight through all of them? You could have hidden. You could have escaped. No one would have blamed you. You were in danger. I am the queen of a species that tried to conquer your people. Why would you care?" Taiho's eyes met hers. They were deep brown, warm like earth soil. "Because you are my wife, and humans protect their families." Something broke inside Vela. A wall she had built around her heart, a wall that had kept her safe and alone for years. It crumbled like dust. She did not cry. Queens did not cry. But her voice shook when she spoke. "I do not understand you, Taiho. I have tried. I have studied humans, read your histories, watched your behavior, but I still do not understand how you can be so—" "Stupid," he offered. "Kind." She squeezed his hand. "After everything we did to your people, after the war, the death, the suffering, you are kind to us. You help our servants. You protect our queen. Why?" Taiho was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Because hatred only creates more hatred. The war killed millions on both sides. More war will kill millions more. Someone has to be the first to stop fighting. Someone has to choose peace, even when it is hard." "And that someone is you?" "I hope so." He closed his eyes, tired from talking. "I hope I can be worthy of that." Vela stayed with him until he fell asleep again. Then she returned to her duties, changed in ways she could not yet name. 3 days later, the crisis truly began. The Crimson Swarm's attack on the palace had only been the beginning. While Vela and her guards fought in the capital, the main swarm fleet had been gathering in deep space. 200 warships crewed by fanatics who would rather die than see peace with humanity. They arrived at the planet like a storm of death. Admiral Korath commanded the fleet. He was old, hard, and absolutely convinced that humans were a disease that needed to be destroyed. He sent a message to the capital, his face appearing on every screen. "People of the Empire," he announced, "your queen has betrayed you. She has married our enemy, brought a human snake into our sacred palace. The peace treaty is a lie. Humanity will never stop until we are all dead or enslaved." He paused, letting his words sink in. "I offer the queen one chance. Surrender the human. Let us execute him as the enemy he is. Do this, and I will spare the capital. Refuse, and I will burn it to ash." The council gathered in emergency session. Fear filled the room like a poison. 200 ships against the planet's defenses. It was not a battle they could win. Elder Kale spoke first. Perhaps we should consider the Admiral's offer. One human life against millions of our own. It is a simple calculation." Commander Rova slammed her fist on the table. That human saved the Queen's life. He fought alone against dozens of enemies. You would betray him after what he did? I would save our people. The argument continued, growing louder and more desperate. Vela sat in silence, watching her council tear itself apart. Then a calm voice cut through the noise. May I speak? Everyone turned. Taiho stood at the entrance of the council chamber. He was pale and moved stiffly, his wounds not yet fully healed. But he stood straight and proud. You should be in bed, Vela said. This concerns me. I should be here. He walked slowly to the center of the room. I have something to show you. He activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air. Pictures of Earth, of human history, of the long, strange journey that had brought humanity to the stars. You see us as weak, Taiho said. Small, soft, easy to kill, and you are right. Individually, a human is no match for a Norian warrior. We have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. He changed the image. Now it showed ancient humans running across grasslands after animals much larger than themselves. But we survived. For 200,000 years, we survived everything the universe threw at us. Ice ages that lasted centuries, plagues that killed half our population, predators that were faster and stronger and deadlier than us. We survived them all. The images shifted again. Wars, disasters, famines, floods, humans building, destroying, rebuilding, never stopping. Do you know how? We refused to quit. When we were hungry, we learned to hunt. When we were cold, we learned to make fire. When we were weak, we learned to work together. Every time something tried to kill us, we found a way to survive. Taiho looked around the room at the frightened council members. Admiral Korath thinks he can break humanity by killing me. He is wrong. You could kill every human in this system, and more would come. You could destroy our worlds, and we would build new ones. You could fight us for 1,000 years, and we would still be here at the end. He paused, letting his words sink in. But I did not come here to threaten you. I came here to ask for help. He pressed a button on his communication device. A new voice filled the room. Norian Council, this is Commander Yuna of the Human Alliance. Vela recognized the name. Taiho's sister. Yuna's voice was strong and clear. 3 days ago, my brother sent me a message about the swarm attack. I have been traveling at maximum speed ever since. I am now 4 hours from your planet with a relief force of 12 ships. 12 ships against 200. I know the numbers look impossible, Yuna continued, but I want you to understand something. Those 12 ships are crewed by humans. Every single person on board volunteered for this mission. They know they might die. They came anyway, because my brother asked for help. The council murmured in confusion and disbelief. Humans do not abandon family, Yuna said, and my brother, for some reason, considers you his family now. So we will fight for you. We will fight until our ships are destroyed, and then we will keep fighting, because that is what humans do. The transmission ended. The room was silent. Taiho looked at Queen Vela. I cannot promise we will win. I cannot promise that everyone will survive. But I can promise that we will not run. Whatever happens, humanity stands with the Norian Empire. Vela stood from her throne. She walked to Taiho and stood before him, looking into his tired eyes. 12 ships, she said. 12 ships against 200. This is madness. Yes, your people will die. Some of them. Probably most of them. And you still came to tell us this? To offer help that might not be enough? Taiho nodded. Because some help is better than no help. And because... He hesitated. Because I made a promise to protect you. I intend to keep that promise even if it kills me. Vela felt tears burning in her eyes. She blinked them away. Commander Rova, she said, her voice steady, prepare our fleet. Every ship we have. My queen? The Crimson Swarm has declared war on my people and my husband. We will answer their declaration." She looked at her council. "And we will not fight alone." Elder Kale stood slowly. "You would risk everything for one human?" Vela smiled, and for the first time in years, it was a real smile. "No, I would risk everything for all of them. The humans came to fight for us. We will fight for them. That is what family does." The battle for the Norian homeworld was about to begin. The battle began at dawn. Admiral Korath's fleet of 200 warships spread across the sky like a dark blanket. They moved toward the planet in perfect formation, confident in their victory. The admiral sat on his command ship, watching the display screens with cold satisfaction. "The Queen has refused to surrender the human," his second officer reported. "She is preparing to fight." "Foolish woman." Korath shook his head. "She throws away her empire for one small alien. Begin the attack." The Crimson Swarm fleet opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked through space like angry stars, missiles launched by the hundreds. The planet's defensive stations returned fire, but they were badly outnumbered. Within minutes, 3 stations had been destroyed. Then the human ships arrived. 12 small vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly behind the swarm fleet. They were tiny compared to the massive Norian warships. Their weapons were weak, their shields thin. Any reasonable commander would have kept them back, used them for support. The humans did not do reasonable. "All ships, attack formation Delta," Commander Yuna ordered from her flagship. "Target their command ships first. Make them notice us." The 12 human ships dove straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. Korath watched in disbelief as the tiny vessels cut through his formation. They moved in patterns he had never seen, using each other as shields, attacking from impossible angles. When one ship was damaged, its crew did not retreat. They aimed their broken vessel at the nearest enemy and accelerated. "They are ramming us," an officer shouted. "That is suicide." "No." Another officer pointed at the screens. "Look, they are ejecting at the last second." It was true. The human crews were launching themselves into space moments before impact, trusting their suits to protect them. The damaged ships became missiles, crashing into swarm vessels and tearing them apart. Then the surviving humans were picked up by other ships and returned to battle. They were fighting with no regard for their own safety. They were fighting like they had already decided to die and wanted to take as many enemies with them as possible. In the first hour, the humans destroyed 23 swarm ships. They lost 4 of their own. The Norian fleet joined the battle. Queen Vela commanded from the royal warship, Taiho standing beside her. She watched the human tactics with growing amazement. "They are insane," Commander Rova said. "They are completely insane." "They are winning," Vela replied. But the swarm still had the numbers. For every ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. Slowly, painfully, the human fleet was being torn apart. 7 ships, 6, 5. Commander Yuna's voice crackled over the communication system. "Queen Vela, we cannot hold much longer, but we have cleared a path to Admiral Korath's flagship. If you can break through..." Vela understood. The head of the snake. Kill Korath, and the swarm fleet would fall into chaos. "All ships, follow me," she commanded. "We end this now." The royal warship charged forward, surrounded by the remaining Norian loyalists. They pushed through the battle line, fighting for every meter. Enemy fire battered their shields. Hull breaches opened and were sealed. Crew members died at their posts. But they reached Korath's flagship. "Board them," Vela ordered. The boarding pods launched. Norian soldiers stormed the enemy ship, fighting through corridors filled with swarm defenders. Taiho went with them, despite Vela's orders to stay back. She followed him. They fought side by side through the enemy vessel. Vela had never seen Taiho fight like this. He was a storm of violence, unstoppable, terrible in his focus. Blood covered his face and hands. His wounds from the palace attack had reopened, but he did not slow down. Finally, they reached the command bridge. Admiral Korath waited for them. He was old but still strong, holding a blade in his hands. Around him lay the bodies of his personal guards, and several Norian soldiers who had reached the bridge before them. "So the traitor queen comes herself," Korath said, "and she brings her pet human." "It is over, Admiral," Vela said. "Your attack has failed. Surrender, and I will spare your crew." Korath laughed. "Surrender? To you? To this creature?" He pointed at Taiho. "Do you know what you have done? You have doomed our species. Humans will never stop. They will spread across the galaxy like a plague. They will take everything from us." "Humans could have destroyed us years ago," Taiho said quietly. "We had the weapons. We had the soldiers. We chose peace instead. Because you were weak. Because we were tired." Taiho stepped forward. "I have killed more Norians than I can count. I have seen my friends die screaming on your ships. I have nightmares every night about the things I did in the war." His voice cracked. "I came here because I wanted it to stop. I wanted both our peoples to live." Korath's face twisted with hatred. "Then you are a fool!" He raised his blade and charged. The fight was brutal. Korath was a skilled warrior, hardened by decades of combat. But Taiho met him blow for blow. They slashed and blocked, ducked and struck. Blood flew from both of them. Finally, Taiho found an opening. He caught Korath's blade arm, twisted it, and drove his own weapon into the Admiral's chest. Korath fell. He looked up at Taiho with dying eyes. "You think you have won, but you will see. Humans cannot be trusted." Taiho knelt beside him. "Maybe not, but trust has to start somewhere." He closed Korath's eyes gently. "Rest now. The war is over." With their admiral dead, the Crimson Swarm fleet broke apart. Some ships surrendered, others fled into deep space. The battle was won. The cost was terrible. Half the Norian fleet had been destroyed. 8 human ships were gone, their crews dead or scattered. Thousands had died in the fighting, but the capital still stood. The Empire survived. 1 week later, Queen Vela stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Beside her stood Taiho, his wounds finally healing. "We won," she said softly. "We survived," he corrected. "There is a difference." Vela turned to face him. In the golden light, he looked older, worn down by everything he had endured. But his eyes were still warm, still kind. "I owe you my life," she said. "My empire owes you its survival." Taiho shook his head. "You owe me nothing. I did what anyone would do for their family." "Family." Vela tasted the word. "Is that what we are now?" "If you want to be." He reached out and took her hand. "I know this marriage was not your choice. I know you never wanted me here. If you want me to leave..." "No." The word came out before she could think. "No. I do not want you to leave." She stepped closer to him, close enough to feel the warmth of his body. He was so small compared to her, so fragile-looking, and yet he had fought through armies, faced down death, never stopped trying to protect her. "I thought humans were weak," she admitted. "I thought you were nothing but a political tool, a symbol of our victory. I was wrong." "Humans are weak," Taiho said. "That is why we became strong. We had to fight for everything we have. We had to earn our place in the universe." "And now? What will you fight for now?" Taiho looked into her eyes. "You, our peoples, the peace we have built together." He squeezed her hand. "If you will let me." Vela felt something warm spreading through her chest, an emotion her species rarely acknowledged, rarely allowed themselves to feel. It was terrifying and wonderful all at once. Teach me, she said. Teach me what makes humans what they are. Teach me how you survived, how you kept going when everything was against you. Tai-Ho smiled. It will take time. We have time. She leaned down and pressed her forehead against his, a Norian gesture of deep affection, usually reserved for family. Tai-Ho seemed surprised for a moment, then closed his eyes and accepted it. Thank you, she whispered, for not giving up on me. Humans never give up, he replied. You should know that by now. From that day forward, the relationship between humans and Norians changed forever. The peace treaty became more than words on paper. It became a true alliance, built on respect and understanding. Tai-Ho became more than a political symbol. He became a bridge between species, helping both sides understand each other. His sister Yuna became a hero to the Norians, celebrated for her courage in the battle. Human colonies and Norian worlds began trading, sharing technology, building something new together. And Queen Vela, ruler of 30-star systems, discovered something her ancestors never knew. True strength was not about size or claws or weapons. True strength was about refusing to surrender, about protecting those you loved, about choosing peace even when war was easier. The greatest power in the universe was the stubborn, unbreakable will of a species that simply refused to give up. And she had married one of them. Years later, when she told her children the story of how their father had changed the galaxy, they always asked the same question. Was he really that brave? And Vela would smile, looking at the man sleeping peacefully beside her, and answer, no, he was braver. Because humans, she had learned, were always more than they seemed. Always.